Muslims around the world perform their fast during Ramadan month and look forward in great anticipation to celebrate a joyful Idul Fitri. So as Dr. Dicky Budiman, one of the Indonesian diaspora in Australia. And today, Pak Dicky has joined us via Zoom live to share with us his fasting experience in Australia and his preparation for Idul Fitri. Hello, Pak Dicky. Good day.
Assalamualaikum, Maisa.
Waalaikumsalam. Pak Dicky, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm about to start to have this Salat, the Taraweh.
Okay.
Actually, we already Isha time, but we still have a few minutes later to have this Taraweh in here, in Australia.
Okay, so with the time differences between Indonesia and Australia, you have had a breakfast for today. What did you have, Pak Dicky?
Yes.
Is it something from Indonesia?
Yeah, because we had there's some Indonesian community in here also sell the Indonesian food, so I can buy some of the Indonesian taste now for the iftar. And of course, for in masjid, the Indonesian community usually provide the iftar, and usually the unique of food or takjil, from Indonesia, like we'll say kolak or gorengan, that's the very nice, and of course this kind of food will for diaspora is very obat kangen for missing the home country.
Yes, exactly, indeed. And you've been living in Australia for years now, but you still miss home. You still miss the feeling of having the holy month in Indonesia. How do you compare it to Australia?
So as a diaspora Muslim living in Australia, my experience with fasting and iftar has been unique and influenced by the cultural and social context in Australia. One of the first challenges, I can say that in the first 10 days of Ramadan in Australia was still in summer season, and it was the longer daylight hours compared to Indonesia, of course. Because Australia is located in southern hemisphere, but now the situation is changed because in the last 10 days of Ramadan, now we already entered the spring season. This means that the fasting hours often less than, almost similar, less than 10, 12 hours or shorter, because now it's already in spring season. And another aspect of my experience, Aisa, with fasting in Australia was the multicultural nature of the country, because Australia is even like Indonesia, but little bit different with Indonesia. Here is people come from different countries, so it's become diverse population with people from various cultural background living in the same community. So this diversity was reflected, like we saw in the video, in the different ways of Muslim in Australia observed in Ramadan. I can encounter Muslim from different cultural background, like Arabic, Turkish, Indonesian, of course, African, and each with their unique custom, tradition, and ways of observing Ramadan, Aisha.
Yes, and the weather is now nicer, obviously,
Yes.
Pak Dicky. And I remember also my own experience to fast in Australia in the early 2000. It was the longest fasting days that I've ever went to. And
I think it was the summertime, summer season, maybe. Yeah.
It was summer. I remember it very vividly, because it's a what an experience. So and now it's Ramadan this year in 2023. Might be different from a few years before because of the COVID-19 as well. Is there any differences now that the Ramadans, when the world is still under COVID-19 surge, if we may say?
So even in Australia now, I mean, the COVID situation in Australia now is under control. But because the elderly population in Australia is quite high compared to Indonesia, because they are a developed country. So the not restriction, but the requirement to to still make sure that the number of people is not really crowded, and also the even not necessary, but the are not mandatory, but the vaccine is still also a requirement. I mean they recommend people to have this booster vaccination. So this requirement of this little bit restriction put the Australia still in a good safe in terms of this recovery. But of course, compared to before now, because the last 2 years of this pandemic, I didn't had the experience to attend the iftar or taraweh in masjid, because they didn't allow us to open the masjid. But now it's very good, even not exactly almost similar with the normal time, but at least we can have this family gathering or community gathering to have this iftar.
Okay, and the next question is still related to COVID-19, and especially since you are one of our source as the epidemiologist from Griffith University. Do you have any messages for people on what to prepare and watch out to have a COVID-19 safe Eid celebration and holiday, both in Australia and also in Indonesia?
Yeah, of course, we have to take a lesson learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, and one of very important of the lesson learned is about the healthy lifestyle, the way we put the standard of personal hygiene or community hygiene is it should be different, and it should be higher than before. So the term of health protocol, or in Indonesian say protokol kesehatan, it should be become the one of the way of our life in daily activities, because we cannot disregard about the washing hand regular because it's not pandemic anymore, because that's very necessary and important for us. And also about the wearing mask, especially when you have this mudik, or the return to your kampung halaman, or to your hometown. You have to make sure that during your turns, I mean in your travel, you have to make sure you still make sure that you can prevent the possibility to infected by not only COVID, but also another infectious disease, especially from the air, by wearing masks when the ventilation is very poor. And also, of course, if possible, choose the time not in the peak time of the mudik, or maybe 1 week before the peak of the mudik time, and also make sure that you also take the booster vaccination, like what the president already recommended. That's very important, because the XBB 1.16, which is now is become the let's say under series monitor of WHO, is bring what we call it the proportional risk to the member of our community, which is most of them is maybe elderly, children, pregnant women, or people who has the comorbidity. So we have to protect them by doing these health protocols. That's my message. And again, this health protocol should be also become our the way of our life, not only during the Ramadan, during the pandemic, but also after the pandemic.
Yes, strongly agree with you, Pak Dicky, because that's what we have to do, especially on the Idul Fitri day with the Salat Eid, where people gathers together. And this is like the year that we can all gather together with the families So don't forget the
Exactly.
health protocol. So are you also saying that you will be coming home for Idul Fitri?
Unfortunately, not for this year because I already took my leave end of this year. I mean, on of the last year, and so this year maybe I will before end of this year. So, but my family will come for celebrate the Eid in Brisbane, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Diki, for joining us on Focus today.
My welcome,
And have a
inshallah.
blessed Ramadan for you and your family.
You too. Thank you, Aisyah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.